When we talk about jutsu in the Naruto world, what usually comes to mind are iconic techniques like Rasengan, Chidori, or Susanoo. But bro, behind the scenes, there are underrated jutsu that often get overlooked or forgotten. Yet, if you dig deeper, their effects and powers can leave opponents frozen in fear. So in today's video, we're going to discuss some of these underrated jutsu in Naruto. Let's dive right in. When we talk about Kikachu no Jutsu, this jutsu is super underrated and often forgotten by Naruto fans, even though it's an incredibly cool and flexible technique, especially for those who truly understand how the Aburame clan operates. The Kikachu, or destruction insects, form a wild symbiosis between humans and insects. Imagine that! Aburame clan members literally become living homes for thousands of insects that live and reproduce within their bodies from birth. In return, they gain full control and can command these insects at any time, like living weapons. This technique isn't just for attacking, it can secretly drain an enemy's chakra. Their signature move, Mushidama, can completely sap an opponent's chakra, leaving them weak and unable to move. What's even crazier is that the Kikachu can track enemies by planting a female insect that emits a scent traceable over long distances, like a manual GPS. Adding to their power, Kikachu are immune to genjutsu due to their simple nervous systems. They can also mutate and adapt to specific opponents, essentially turning the Aburame into super insect trainers. Sadly, this jutsu rarely gets the spotlight, leading many to underestimate the true strength of the Aburame clan. Moving on to Kami no Shisha no Jutsu, Konan's paper manipulation takes combat to an entirely different level. She doesn't just make pretty origami, but can literally turn billions of sheets of paper into deadly weapons. It's like carrying an entire armory in the form of A4 sheets. Insane, right? Konan created a lake of paper traps, and when her enemies stood on it, it would split open like a chasm, trapping them inside. Most of that paper was explosive, and if one touched it, all would detonate like a domino of death. We first saw this technique when she fought Obito, who came to take Nagato's Rinnegan. If Obito hadn't used Izanagi, he would have been killed by this incredible jutsu. Forcing Tobi to use Izanagi shows just how serious Kami no Shisha no Jutsu is. Sadly, despite its sheer power, it doesn't get the attention it deserves. Drunken Fist is a taijutsu technique triggered when the user is heavily intoxicated. Their movements become unpredictable, wild, and highly improvisational, leaving their opponents completely bewildered. Imagine attacks zigzagging at high speed. It's impossible to predict their moves, but don't be fooled. This isn't a taijutsu you can train or learn like normal. Only a few, like Rock Lee, can do it naturally. When Lee drinks too much, his face turns red, his emotions go wild, and his actions become erratic. There's even a scene where Lee wrecks a restaurant in a drunken fit. The Naruto anime even introduced a variant called the Seasickness Fist, where Lee mimics drunken effects by getting seasick, a creative workaround for alcohol restrictions. One memorable Drunken Fist moment is when Rock Lee fought Kimimaro. In that battle, Lee was so unpredictable that he evaded Kimimaro's attacks and even pushed him to his limits. Unfortunately, this taijutsu wasn't shown again after his battle with Kaguya Kimimaro. Speaking of underrated jutsu, Kotamatsukami is one of the most valuable but underappreciated. This high-level genjutsu belonging to Shisui Uchiha can control a person's thoughts without them even realizing it. Imagine entering someone's mind and making them do whatever you want, all while they believe it's their own idea. This jutsu was so powerful that it broke Kabuto Yakushi's control over Edo Tensei Itachi Uchiha, a nearly unbreakable reanimation control. What makes it even more special is that Kotamatsukami can't be used frequently. It requires a decade to recharge unless you have a cheat like Hashirama's cells to speed up the process, though it's still far from spammable. Beyond Shisui, Danzo also used this technique to influence Mifune during the Kage Summit, though it was stopped by Ao detecting Danzo's chakra flow. Itachi also used Kotamatsukami when he implanted a crow in Naruto, which activated later during their encounter with Naruto and Killer Bee while Itachi was reanimated, freeing him from Edo Tensei's control. For underrated jutsu, you can't skip C4 by Darara. Darara is an escaped ninja from Iwagakure. During his time in the village, he was a member of the Blast Corps. After running away from the village, he joined Akatsuki and was one of its youngest members. This isn't just about a big boom, it's far more complex and terrifying. C4 is the peak of Darara's deadly artistry. Here's how it works. Using the mouth on his chest, Darara creates a giant clay clone of himself. When it detonates, it releases a cloud of microscopic bombs invisible to the naked eye. Anyone who breathes or comes into contact with it, game over. These micro-bombs attack at the cellular level, turning the victim to dust. We see C4 in action during Darara's fight with Sasuke. Even with all his sharing in prowess and speed, Sasuke had to think fast to survive this jutsu. Even someone like Obito Uchiha acknowledged how terrifying this technique was. Finally, let's discuss Ginton or Dust Release, another underrated jutsu that makes opponents tremble. This Keki Tota is a more advanced form of Kekkei Genkai, combining 3 elements: earth, wind, and fire. This jutsu can disintegrate anything at the molecular level. The user, like Mu or Onoki, forms a 3-dimensional shape such as a cube or cone with chakra. Once it's ready, it obliterates anything in its path at the molecular scale. Onoki often used it as a warning to enemies. The drawback? It requires preparation time. If the opponent is skilled at interrupting the process, they could block or halt it. Moreover, the damage depends on the initial shape. For example, the cube form has a smaller blast radius, while the cone form could potentially destroy an entire island. When 2 Ginton techniques collide, they can merge into a massive explosion, reducing everything in the radius to dust. And that's the underrated jutsu in Naruto. What kind of jutsu you favorite? Write down and comment.